Illinois or in Washington, D.C., it's really goofed up. Governor, it's hard. The interest groups are tough. The media is against us. Whatever the excuses are. I mean, tell me about it. As Adam mentioned, I come from Minnesota. He read the list, but he missed a name. This is a state that elected Al Franken U.S. So in my state, people think sometimes Massachusetts is the most liberal state in the country. They voted for Ronald Reagan twice. Minnesota never did. You remember that year? Some of you may be old enough to remember there was an electoral map up on election night. The entire country, a complete sea of red, all voting 49 out of 50 states for the wonderful, remarkable Ronald Reagan. One state did not vote for him. Guess which one it was? Minnesota! So my only point in sharing that with you, and this point, is not to be immodest. But when you do what we did, the movement conservative, in a very liberal place, and you take spending below zero for the first time in 150 years, and we cut taxes, and we took on the public employees and won. For example, in the bus strike, we took a 44-day bus strike, shut down the entire transit system for a month and a half in one of the longest transit strikes in the history of the country, because the bus drivers, the government bus drivers, thought they should be able to work just 15 years and then have the government pay for their health care for the rest of their lives. So I went around the state and said, if you're not in government, how many of you get to work just 15 years and then have the government pay for your health care for the rest of your lives? No hands ever went up. I said, do you know the bus drivers get that? They do. Do you know you're paying for that? We are? Are you with me in trying to get that shut off and changed? Heck yeah, or worse than heck yeah. They're ready to come down to the Capitol. So we had all of the same protests and strikes and all the stuff that you see in Madison, not quite as large, and people outside my bedroom window with signs. Pawlenty is a weapon of mass transit destruction. But we won. And I told the people of Minnesota, the people who are paying the bill shouldn't be getting a worse deal than the people who are the recipients of the benefits. So, the first state in the nation to offer, one of the first states in the nation to offer performance pay for teachers statewide, and pension reform, and tort reform, and welfare reform, and all the other things that are happening now in the country. We just did most of it before it was cool. So I share that with you, again, not to be immodest, but to tell you this point. I know from talking to many of you in this state and other parts of the state that there's a sense of sometimes discouragement in a place like Illinois, that maybe you can't do it. Yes, you can. If you can do it in Minnesota and make these kinds of changes like I did, as Frank Sinatra would sing about New York, we can do it anywhere. And you can do it in Minnesota. Now, one other just quick thing as a value. People spend money differently if it's their own money. So if you've got time to study government reform and stay up all night and watch cable TV, that's great. It's good information. Or go to think tanks or read white papers. That's all wonderful. But if you just need to kind of cut to the chase about what's wrong with much of our government and how we need to fix it, just do this. On a given weekend, go to 2 weddings. Go to one where there's an open bar and the refreshments are free, quote unquote, and go to one where there's a cash bar. You'll see 2 very different sets of behaviors. Now, I said this in New York some weeks ago, and a Wall Streeter in the back of the room yells out, well, who even has a cash bar anymore? That's about all you need to know, by the way, about the Wall Street perspective and problem. But if we're going to fix these systems, the answer in their worldview on the other side of this is drag it into Washington, D.C. Create a government-centric model. Have it be top-down command and control. Have it be limited size or one size fits all. Have the government regulate it. Have it staffed by bureaucrats and government employees. Have it have all the dynamic and entrepreneurial qualities of Amtrak or the post office. And within 10 or 15 years, they'll run it into the financial rocks like they do everything else. That is not my vision of government reform, and I know it's not yours. The answer is we need to empower individuals and families to do what's best for them, to make decisions for what's right for them and their families. And we need to give them good information about price and quality and education and healthcare and everything else, and allow them to choose in a marketplace what's best for them. And if they need financial help, to the extent we can afford it, let's get it to them, but let's get it to them directly. Let's not run it through some big, mindless bureaucracy. That's the kind of reform we need in America. And we can't have this many people in the country so dependent on government to the point where we have more people riding in the wagon than we got pulling the wagon. And we're almost at the tipping point there, and you know what I'm talking about.